They are max card and max decoration. Because I don't want people going.
I can't even do full screen. Let's see. Can I do oh, here. I'm stupid. All right, it's 11:15. Let's do it. Even if it's two people, I don't care. Okay, I've given presentations with 0 people. Okay, you too.
You do the panel and make sure that they can't say you didn't do it.
Exactly, and we're gonna save it. And also, I left the door open, and so they can hear my lovely voice. Okay. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to Con Survival. This is how many times I've done this? This is my first time in Camelback, okay? And I had an experience. Okay, there's only one bus company that gets from New York City to these resorts. And I gotta tell you, you know, if you own a car, great. But if you live in New York City, you're screwed. Okay, so we're gonna go through planning for a con. We're gonna talk about money, time management, and etiquette, networking. And also we're gonna talk about the health too, because you can't have a good time if you're not healthy. I should know, because between 2 weeks ago and today, because 2 weeks ago I actually did this panel, I got sick, but don't worry, I'm okay. You can hear it from my voice. You know, I need one of those little remotes. But anyway, so when you're looking for a con, it really depends, because you know, sometimes you like a big size or a smaller size. If you're new to it, usually you want to go for something that has less people, so it's less overwhelming. All right. Of course, location. I'm a little crazy because this Camelback is almost the middle of nowhere. I don't know about you, but so you know, if you're willing to go far, if you're willing to fly to get there, and you have the budget to do so, great. All right. There's also types of cons. It's not just an anime con. This July, I'm going to a pharmacy conference. So my boss paid for the event, and I think the hotel is all but I paid for the flights. So there's also steampunk, there's you know, there's one that's for Dragon Ball Z, for example, just plain Dragon Ball Z, for example. So COVID guidelines as well. You're probably not gonna get away from it. All right, it's physical, online, and then you also look at reviews and feedback. So if you have the time and money, registering early goes a long way. You save money. The only problem is, you know, sometimes things can change. So sometimes you're gonna need a backup plan. All right, and that's where the, you know, for example, scheduling conflicts. So, and also budgeting. So time, money, very important. Okay, so COVID, I'm not gonna go too much into it, but from the beginning of the pandemic, it's caused so much stress, so much heartache and all that stuff. You know, the hotel industry, the con industry, they suffered a lot simply because, you know, people can't gather because people will get sick. So some cons actually went online. Some of them even went hybrid. Near Comic-Con this year will go hybrid actually. So one voice actor could not make it. So I think it's Sean Chiplock. So things can happen. So, and you can't make it or the organizers cancel it. So you have to do your homework. All right. You want to try to find some flights that are refundable. Okay, find hotels that are refundable. All right. And I also encourage buying insurance. Okay, God forbid something happens, because we're still in a pandemic, even though Dr. Fauci kind of says otherwise. So yeah. And even if the organizer cancels, if you want a refund, you have to ask. Okay, there's a saying, ask and you shall receive. Even transportation gets canceled. So you gotta monitor them. Sometimes my Amtrak itinerary gets canceled. The one going to Boston for 2 weeks for me, I'm going to Anime Boston 2 weeks, they canceled the one going to Boston, so I got a bus ticket. Well, I also got refunded for it. Well, they have to refund it because they canceled it. It's not my fault. So you have to estimate how much you spend. So you have to put everything, all these things into consideration. You have to eat, all right? You gotta buy for the tickets, and you gotta have money to get to where you want to go. Gas prices are expensive. Oh my goodness. I don't have to worry about it, but a lot of us do. My mom last month only spent $25, $30 for a full tank. This time, 50. So you got to put that into account as well, and you got to mix it up as well with the credit cards and debit cards and cash. Not everyone accepts cash. Okay, don't think that everyone accepts Apple Pay either. So setting aside money, there are different ways to do it. If you already have enough money, you're good to go. Okay, I like to use everything on a credit card. As long as you pay everything on time, okay, obviously. But credit card's not something that, when I was younger, I always thought, oh, I got a credit card, that means I can get everything for free. Yeah. And, but the money has to come from somewhere. So, you live and you learn, right? So I think some people still think that way. So there are different ways of budgeting. You can budget a certain amount. You can put a little bit of money every week or every month. There's an app for it, so one can do that. And you don't have to, but it is there. The earlier you start, the better when it comes to putting the money in. Just like, it's a tiny version of like a retirement account where you put money into the Roth IRA or the 401k every month. But if you start earlier, the more money you're gonna have in that little war chest. So you have to be proactive. Got to mix up with the different kinds of payments. And I keep track of everything. Right now I keep track of my phone. I used to write it, but I've been very busy. So always watch your money, okay? And ask yourself if you have enough after the con. God forbid something happens. All right, and as I said, you have to have enough to eat, to travel, and will you have enough for future cons? And some cons are free. Good luck finding them. So the online ones are the more common ones that's free. So that's how I keep track of it. That's from 3 years ago at Anime Nights. Anime Nights got canceled 3 years in a row. So I feel bad for them. Okay, so you have to have your little draft here. So you're going to write down how much you want to contribute and also write down how much you save, and then you just dilly that dally from there. So these are just a few of the expenses to list. So your travel, your hotel, the transportation, the admission to get to the con. All right, but also have the miscellaneous as well. So this is one example. Anime Expo has it. You can do it with one person or multiple people. This is my simple version. This is Puchi Con from last year in Atlantic City, and that's just one example. And $700 is just one example, okay? And now merch, I barely spent $300, but again, this is just as a way to organize your money, so you can control yourself and not spend like drunken sailors. All right, so registering, most of them, they have a website. Puchi Con has its own website to do it, but they sometimes would use a third party. I think Eventbrite, they use it. And, so as I said, they have Eventbrite. And there are also different ways of doing it. Your Comic-Con has fan verification. That's still active now. Okay, sometimes you need a member account, like San Diego Comic-Con or Otakon. Finding a place to stay, you gotta book early to secure your room, or else if you don't do it on time, no rooms available. So, but you gotta find a place. A tent's not enough. I wish we could do that, but I think we could do that here, right? We can have a tent Just camp over there. Don't spend anything. You just buy for the tent and all that. I don't know. So shop around and check with reviews and feedback, because you can't just stay at any hotel. You want a hotel where you can feel safe. All right, and just because it's the cheapest doesn't mean it's the best. Note to self, for me. So, but are you willing to spend a little bit more just to have it convenient? There is a hotel I'm staying, that I will stay, it's in Chateau. It's like maybe 10, 20 minutes by walking distance. It's because I don't want to spend a lot of money, so. But I'm gonna have to do a little bit of walking there. Also read the fine print, okay? If you don't, you're gonna waste money. So some websites, there are so many websites, I use usually cheap tickets, I tend to use more. But there's hotels.com, Hotels Tonight, Hotels Combined, there's Travelocity, etc. Okay, so Airbnb, there's not much Airbnb in this area, so we're gonna do hotels, and hostels. So Airbnb usually, obviously, you stay at another person's home. It's like Uber and Lyft, basically. For the cabs, Airbnb is like for staying. And obviously you book for hotels and motels. So you look at the price and the size. And motels tend to lack amenities. Hostels. I went to a hostel once in Otakon because it was less than $50 a night. It was kind of an experience, okay? Thank goodness I didn't get COVID, all right? But you're dealing with strangers, but it's like being in a dorm. So it's more affordable, but it could be risky. There may be a lack of privacy. In the bathroom, I carry everything and I put everything inside my bags. Just in case, and I try to do it when no one's using it. So it's great for extroverts, you can make new friends, but you have to watch your things. Make sure no one steals it, and also bring your own soap and deodorant and everything, okay? So, this is one example where you can actually, since Puchi Con offers these blocks, you can actually save money. So that's one example in Atlantic City. So after booking, I encourage calling the hotel just to be safe, just to make sure that it's there. Okay, and also checking help and support page just to be safe. And I say max 5 per room for friends. I've seen as much as 10. But are you able to handle it? I mean, if you're able to handle it, great, but make sure they're not sick. Nowadays, people are not checking their COVID vaccine or whether they're fully vaccinated or not. But it's always a good way to do it. You don't want it to spread. And when you come home, you don't want to get sick and spread to more people. I don't know if they have a code check or but it's always important to find a free bad code check so you don't have to carry everything and then you break your back or whatnot. So online cons, so you can do it anywhere as long as you have good service or good Wi-Fi. So when you invite someone, find out who you invite and know who you're inviting, and you got a background check, even the people who you know the most, because what if they don't know each other, and you want to reduce or avoid any drama or toxicity, because we have no time for that, no time, no energy for that. Okay, and someone has to be the leader, someone has to be responsible for everybody, and also to collect all the fees as well. You gotta evenly split the cost of the room as well. Would you want your hotel room to be like this? No, I don't. I don't know about you, but I don't know if some people like it messy. I don't. All right. So it's very important to emphasize the rules to follow. I think that for the most part, most people would know, especially if you've been rooming with other people for a long time. Keep it clean and neat. Okay, clean up after yourselves. A lot of times when I have my belongings, I put it always in one place. So try not to eat on the bed, okay? We don't want to mess. Try to, and as I said, put things in one area. Try to keep the noise level at a reasonable level. Okay, you want to be respectful of other people in the other rooms. Okay, and keep alcohol to a minimum. I will talk about alcohol. Okay, so obviously below 21 should avoid it. And golden rule: please be polite. Please be respectful. Transportation, the one that I had to go through. I budget extra time, so try to look for good deals. There's barely anything. There's only one company, Mart's Bus, that gets me from Port Authority to here, and also goes to Kalahari if you want to go to Colossal Con East, for example. I think this one is kind of better because, this is my opinion, but it's a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate. So familiarize your schedules, okay, and plan ahead. 1 month ago, I didn't know what Mart's Bus is. So what I did was I went to Port Authority and I was looking for the gates of where to go. And that helped me prepare ahead of time, so I don't get lost and I don't miss my bus. All right. Also, Google Maps is great, but it's not the only tool. Google Maps did not catch the Mart's Bus that goes from Port Authority to here. Usually gets like Greyhound, Hour Bus, and all that. But even with Greyhound, Hour Bus, you have to plan ahead because those bus routes may not be available simply because all the seats are taken, for example. So you gotta have different ways to get there. I was very close to doing an Uber or Lyft from an intermediate stop in Stroudsburg. Okay, because I had to transfer from one Mart's Bus to another. And I had to wait a little bit. But good thing I arrived on time. That's good. And try, if possible, to have paper electronic documents. If you want everything electronic, please first, obviously, do not lose your devices. Number 2, make sure they're charged. I'm also going to talk a little bit later on having battery packs. I have 2 battery packs. I'm using one right now while I'm recording this. All right, so if they ask for it, try to have a proof of negative test or proof of COVID vaccination. And once booked, you gotta monitor because anything can change, such as my Amtrak itineraries. Okay, please don't memorize this. These are the list of sites that you can do for travel. I tend to use more, Kayak does a lot of things, but I do more cheap tickets also. But Expedia runs cheap tickets as well. Okay, so just like hotels, for transportation, it's always important to try to look for savings. So this is one example when I was going to Atlantic City. But of course, you gotta make sure that the buses are available. If not, then bye-bye to the savings. So it's a COVID test example. There are different kinds, so not detected. When was this? Oh, this was almost 2 years ago. So New York City has its one example. This is my COVID vaccination. All right, I actually got a booster as well. So New York has the Excelsior Pass. New Jersey has a Docket Pass, or the Docket app. Pennsylvania doesn't have any of these vaccine passports. You just bring the vaccination card. So just as a summary, one intervention is not enough, and it's not 100% to prevent the spread, whether it's COVID, the flu, or the cooties. Just kidding. Okay, so it's not just vaccination, it's also mask, ventilation, all right, washing your hands, etc. So that's the Swiss cheese model, that the more layers that you add, the much lesser chance you get exposed. So masking, it's confusing, right? Masking is confusing. That's why I still wear it, because I always like to play it safe. So I just focus on the red here. Why? Because the other ones focus with like in the state. New York State, there's still a little bit of mask mandates there. In most states, it's basically eased. So other than the healthcare settings, for example, so indoor public places, you need to wear a mask here. Okay. If you're not feeling well, why are you here? Stay home. All right. So if you've got expected recent or suspected exposure to COVID, why are you here? If you're at high risk, so I'm high risk, I'm asthmatic, I'm wearing a mask. Okay, if there's large crowds, if you can't social distance, okay, wear a mask. Public transportation, mainly in the New York City area, you gotta wear a mask. New Jersey Transit, it's masks are optional, for example. I think Greyhound and Coach USA, they also lifted it. Oh, I just said it, okay. So just as a summary, most places, mainly in the New York City area, masks are required. Masks are optional for New Jersey Transit, Amtrak, most places in the US, most buses. Okay. The thing is, before you book anything, always check. And even if you book and you're getting ready to go to your destination, always check the COVID status. Always check restrictions or regulations or safety protocols because they keep changing. All right, domestic travel, this is updated. So stay up to date with your vaccines. I want my 4th dose, but I'm not eligible because I'm 34. I need to be 50. So there's no need to quarantine still, but I would suggest it, especially if you're symptomatic. Okay, and it's always good to get tested before or after travel. Okay, sometimes some destinations, some airlines may require it. Most airlines, I think, are very they ease the restrictions now. So again, always check with the transit carriers, always check with the destinations. And one recommendation is get a PCR test at least 1 to 3 days prior to departure and after arrival, just to be safe. It's recommended, it's not required, but it's recommended. Things can change, especially with the cases going up. And masking is strongly encouraged, especially indoors. You gotta wear it properly. The social distancing, you already know about hand hygiene. And if there's any conflict with rules and regulations, and if you're not sure, you always wanna be safe. You wanna go for the safest and the most stringent. All right. Again, safety first. I think people kind of forget that. International travel, a little bit more complicated. So whatever I told you about domestic travel, you gotta apply it here too. All right. And you have to check. All right. CDC has its own travel guidance and restrictions as well. So get tested 1 day before travel and about 3 to 5 days after travel. I prefer PCR. Okay. There's no need to get tested before leaving the US, but coming back to the US, you have to get tested. Okay. And no need to quarantine after arriving to the US unless it's symptomatic. Again, things can change. And the airline passengers to the US may need to provide contact info to the airlines, but it's a way of contact tracing. The thing about enforcement is kind of questionable. In the next few slides, that enforcement is kind of questionable. Okay, so if you're flying, before arriving to the US, you have to provide proof of negative test no more than 1 day before travel, or provide proof of recovery from COVID in the past 90 days. And it doesn't matter what citizen you are, it doesn't matter what vaccination status. Okay, I just found out, except those under the age of 2, I don't know why, but I would still get tested. I would still have everyone tested anyway. Okay, the obvious parts. You do not travel if you have COVID symptoms, regardless of vaccination status or if you recovered from it. Okay, if you tested positive, so you do not travel until 10 full days after either, and I'm gonna be very careful with the wording here. It's 10 full days after, so you don't travel for 10 full days. After the 10 full days, you know, either so the day 0 is when symptoms started, or the date of the positive test. So if 10 days has elapsed after either the two, and if you don't have any symptoms, then you can travel, that's fine. But it gets more complicated. So if you're waiting for your test results, do not travel. Again, you know, enforcement is questionable, so there will be people who will not be following this. But that's really rolling the dice. So if positive at your destination, isolate, postpone your return until it's safe to do so. So if you had a close contact with someone with COVID and you are recommended to quarantine, you don't travel at least for 5 days after the last exposure. Okay, so after the 5 days you wear a mask and all that. They recommend actually 10. So that's where it gets a little confusing. Okay. So but in the next part, so if you need to travel on day 6 to 10 after the last exposure, you get tested at least 5 days. Okay. If it's negative and you have no symptoms, you're fine. Okay, so that's your test out. Okay, if you don't get tested, sorry, you're still sticking to the 10 days. And during the time you have to wear a mask. Again, things can change. If you had a close contact with someone testing positive and you're not recommended to quarantine, you still get tested at least 5 days after. Okay, so you already know. You can travel if it's negative and you're asymptomatic. Okay, and if you still have COVID within the past 3 months, no need to test. But still follow safety protocol. If you have symptoms, then you have to do the 10 days thing. You can't travel like that. And if you travel during the 10 days after last exposure, you wear your mask. I know it's repetitive and it sounds obvious, but people have not been following the rules lately. So, you know, so wear a mask for the entire duration during the 10 days. If not, don't travel for at least 10 days. Oh, whoops. If you arrive back to the US, okay, stay home and self-quarantine for 5 days. So you know the pattern already. So, and regardless of vaccination status, it's recommended that you get tested 3 to 5 days. Some people do 1 to 3 days. I've noticed that with the BA2 subvariant, the incubation period is a little bit shorter compared to Delta, for example. And self-monitor for symptoms. So you already know if you got symptoms, you gotta quarantine. Okay, and each place has its own protocols. So research on that. I'm not gonna go into it because it's gonna take forever. Because everyone's different. So flying, that's the fastest, but it's the most expensive. All right, and you gotta bring your documents. Okay, and May 3rd, 2023, starting on that date, you have to have a real ID or an enhanced ID if you're from New York where I am. So you can do domestic travel and also go to Canada or Mexico. If not, you're gonna need to use your passport. And you have to research on what to carrier check. And this is a family rule. I arrive at the gate 2 to 3 hours before departure. I know someone who arrives 1 hour for domestic and never missed a flight. But I don't know if I want to take that risk. So going trains and buses, I took a bus. It's cheaper. You gotta prepare your itineraries also like before. You gotta get there about 30, 60 minutes prior just to be safe, especially if you've never been to the place before. Okay, and you already know about the documents, and if it's less than 250 miles, I tend not to fly. Public transportation, it's easy. Okay, so no need to worry too much about that. Driving, you gotta take care of your car, okay? And before traveling, get the car checked, okay? And take a break also, every 1 to 3 hours or 100 miles, depending on how comfortable you are. If you're carpooling, gotta split the fees. And the driver has to choose the music, driver needs to stay away or else you get into an accident. Okay. Next order of business is cosplay planning. There is a panel on cosplay planning a little bit later. And time crunching, not advice. I still do it anyway sometimes because I have a busy schedule. Okay, you still have to go through the weapons policy and dress code, which I'll talk about. I'll talk about weapon policy. And find out how to put the cosplay together. Okay, make sure that you set goals, objectives if you want to start from scratch. I tend to buy one, I have no time. Start with what you have before you buy more. That's what I tend to do. Sometimes I'll use one outfit for many kinds of characters. And then after you gather the materials and tools you need, consider the weather and the environment, okay? And try to be comfortable, okay? How do you have fun if you're not comfortable? And also cause test. So weapons and props, each con is different, and every year it tends to change. You always want to research it prior to coming. Okay, so exercise good judgment and consider materials used. Usually if it's metal, for example, they may not allow it. If it's sharp or live weapons, they may not allow it as well. You also have to consider how to transport them. That's my katana, my sword there. Okay, and also some of them require inspection, so you always have to go for inspection. I haven't done that because I just arrived and I went straight for the panel after arriving here. So if you're dealing with something that looks like a live weapon or prop, you want to feather it or disable, especially if you have guns, just obviously covered with a hole, or feather if you have like a bow and arrow. Okay, so be careful with sharp stuff. Handle it with care, and be aware of the surroundings. You don't want to hit anyone. Boom, boom. You know, no explosives, no bubbles. Okay, for obvious reasons. Okay, some stuff may get confiscated, like pepper sprays. Hide them. So week before the con, you go through the checklist. You prepare the clothes. You know, try not to carry too much. I only have 2 things. So like equipment, I have my clothes, I have my 2 cosplays. This is one of my cosplays. I'm gonna cosplay another character tomorrow. Okay, now there is, actually they said they have an app for Puchi Con, but it's really a Which Spaces app. But it's more like kind of a forum thing. But you can go on the website, they have a spreadsheet for the schedule. And you can plan from there. Don't overwhelm yourself, okay? The goal is to have fun, not to, this is not like a business trip, okay? Again, it's to have fun. And get tribal itinerary ready. This is your checklist, so it's a lot. So that's just one example to use. This is some of the examples. So battery packs, at 2 would be great. Phones and chargers, you gotta bring your meds. Deodorant. I don't want to smell your thing. Okay. All right. Your wallet, documents. Now in this place for Camelback, they don't want outside food and water for some reason. I don't know why. But again, there's some exceptions there. I always carry a pen. I have a planner with me. I have a toothbrush. Everything. Okay. So cosplay repair kit. It's optional. I had to buy a new one because I think I used up a lot of this stuff already, but this is just a list of it. So hygiene, everyone should know by now, wear a mask, okay? You gotta take a shower a day, you gotta put your deodorant on, you gotta brush your teeth, okay? Keep your hands clean, make sure your clothes are clean. And now you've arrived, you arrive as early as you can, get your badges, and always have fluids. Stay hydrated, okay? And I also talk about the bag and code check. And you want to prioritize if there are any overlaps, Okay, the ones that you think you're gonna have long lines, so go to those first. And as I said, don't overschedule and always have something to back up. So cons have all these things. Puchi Con, I think, has all of it, and then some, actually. There's dealer's room and artist alley, I think it's combined. Okay. There's autographs, panels. This is a panel here. Photo shoots. I'm gonna go to a photo shoot later on. I think there's a concert. Masquerades, I know they're gonna have. I think there's a party. Did you go to the party last night or?
Yeah, the pre-party.
The pre-party? Did you have to swim to get onto those seats for the bar?
No, they have seats like with, right, no water or anything, and then seats in like the water.
I saw it, but I'm not big with water. We'll see. And they do gaming. I think Sonic does that. SONEK. And then I think there's a cosplay contest as well. They also have karaoke too. I forgot to put that there. And online virtual, I'm not going to talk too much about it because as we more and more go in person, there's less of it. But the great thing is that a lot of times it's free. So these are the lists. It's similar to what they have, but it's more of an online version of it. 621, 631 rule. So you've heard of it before. So at least 6 hours of sleep a day. If 6 hours not enough, sleep more. 2 to 3 meals a day. All right. The multivitamin is an option. All right. And when I mean meals, I mean real food. Real food. Not Monster, not Rockstar, not Red Bull. If you only drink those for the entire day, you're gonna crash. You need real food. Okay? And got a shower too. And deodorant too. Okay, so goal is to have fun and be positive. Magic time, money, energy, and anxiety. So in the con, there's a lot going on. So keep your schedule realistic. As I said, don't overwhelm yourself. Keep yourself comfortable. So comfortable shoes, for example. Keep track of time and money. And if it's overwhelming, always try to find some quiet, safe spaces. There's a lot to go around here in Camelback. And again, don't overwhelm yourself. Take a step back, breathe. Don't overwhelm yourself. Spoon theory. That's basically your currency for energy. You don't have to use it, but there are people, especially made by Christine Mistrandino, who has lupus. She doesn't have as much stamina, so she's trying to use her spoons wisely. So, actually, sorry about that. So the more rest you get, the more spoons you get, the more things you do, the more spoons you're gonna use, basically. And these are just an example of how many spoons you're gonna use. Some people are different because it may require less spoons or more spoons. When you do it for a longer duration, the amount of spoons may go up, depending on how long you're doing the action. So it's started by Christine Mistrandino, and always use whole spoons. Don't use a partial of a spoon. Okay. The problem is, if you run out of spoons, you're gonna borrow from tomorrow, and then you're not gonna have enough energy to do all these. I don't know how that works for her, but everyone's different. Usually, when a new day comes after you sleep like 8 hours or whatnot, usually your spoons start to replenish. Okay, some people would say start 20 spoons. It really depends. Okay, with different people, with each activity, some people may use less or more. So everyone's different. Okay, money. We talked about energy currency. Now we're going to talk about dinero. Okay, so you always ask why you're here. How do you feel? Do I need this? What if I wait? Will I save more? How do I pay for it? Where will I put it? So etiquette, cosplay is not consent. Keep your hands to yourself, okay? And you gotta be respectful and be polite. And you have to ask permission. Gotta ask permission. Okay, don't just go out of nowhere. People will get anxiety attacks for that. Okay, so gotta ask permission. If the person said no, end of story. That's it. You gotta listen. Don't feel pressured to say no. If you don't want to, you don't want to. That's it. Okay, so if someone's harassing you, you have to state it. You gotta tell the person to stop. If the person still keeps doing it, report to con ops, report to security. Etiquette, do not block moving traffic. Do the photo shoots in a way where it doesn't block everyone else, okay? And respect people's space and be alert and aware of surroundings. So cosplay judging, that's going for the contest, okay? If you have nothing good to say, don't say it all right? No one's perfect. Cosplay is an art. And I'll explain more about that. How am I doing on time? I gotta do this quickly. So there are many ways to dress up to. And you don't have to love or hate a cosplay. You gotta respect your effort too. See this one example. See, you mix two different anime. And there's another example where one person's half Naruto, half Sasuke, and then there are 12 different Sasuke's. So cosplay positivity, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how tall or what skin color, or how skinny, or what your size, whatever it is. You can do whatever, you can cosplay whomever you want, okay? Networking, it's great because you can actually swap ideas and you can get to know each other. Who knows? You can get maybe another job opportunity, but I know that's a little bit of a stretch. But the main thing is make friends, exchange info. What I like about cons that help me with, because I'm autistic, it helps me with being confident in socializing, and especially if it's something with things that you can relate to, but still be respectful and honest and all that. And you can ask about the interest in cosplays, share your passions, and also exchange contact info. I tend to practice, and I tend to keep notes sometimes. A long time ago, I don't keep notes anymore, because I got the hang of it. All right, just know that not everyone wants to befriend you. It happens. Everyone's different. Don't want to take advantage of anyone. And same other way around, don't let anyone take advantage of you. And don't blow up my phone either, okay? You gotta do it in a respectable way. So networking tips, I already said about sharing common interests, online groups, some icebreakers, like have you been to cons before? Have you seen this anime before? Have you met this person before, for example? And compliments. I would say, I like your cosplay. I do that a lot, especially if I really like the cosplay. So these are the different places. You can basically network anywhere. So social media is a lot of toxicity going on. You gotta be careful what you share because it will backfire. And you've seen this a lot. So you always gotta think what your reason is, what are the benefits, what are the risks, what's your motive, what's your goal, okay? Try to keep it clean and respectful. And please, please don't post misinformation and disinformation and toxicity. No shaming, no discrimination. That goes out the window. Cons and parties, limit alcohol intake, and don't mix alcohol with other meds. People should know that by now, but I don't know if people are listening to me. Okay, no illicit drugs, no smoking, vaping. This is a family con of all ages, okay? So even though pot is legal, I don't know if it's in Pennsylvania, is it legal in Pennsylvania?
Just medically.
Just medically, okay. So there are some restrictions, but in New Jersey and New York, they're gonna go, even if it's legal and recreational, I wouldn't do it, okay? Do it somewhere else. Okay, not everyone can tolerate the smell. So sometimes I would have a full meal before partying simply because if you tend to overdrink a little bit, at least you absorb the alcohol a little bit slower. And don't give in to peer pressure either. So if you don't want to drink, for example, then you don't have to drink. Okay, go with friends, don't overdo it. All right, so what I mean 1 to 2 glasses a day, that's not what I'm talking about. So 1 glass is 0.6 ounces of pure alcohol, which is about 18 milliliters. So 0.6 ounces, so it's, I would say, a little bit more than a tablespoon. So 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of, which is 5%. If it's 5% of beer, 12 ounces. If it's 12% of wine, 5 ounces. If it's a shot glass, 40%, I think that's the Shirak thing. I'm not big with the alcohol names, I just know alcohol in general. So 1.5 ounces shot, so that's also 1 glass. So for pregnant or nursing, you don't do alcohol, obviously. Usually women, 1 per day, men, 2 a day, but most people go way beyond that. Just a smidge. Okay, and a lot of them don't measure it for some reason. So you gotta be careful what you're drinking and how much. So if you're a designated driver, for example, no alcohol. Pregnant nursing, I already said no alcohol. Below 21, no alcohol. If you take meds, please don't take any alcohol. Okay, if you have certain health conditions, if you have liver issues, if you have cirrhosis, no alcohol. Okay, don't memorize the numbers. Okay, just know that the skinnier you are, the less amount of alcohol it takes for you to get tipsy or intoxicated. We're not going to go too much into the math part, but it is there. So if you want to find out how much ounces of pure alcohol, you calculate how much you're drinking ounces times percentage of pure alcohol, but who's measuring it? You want to just be careful with, with eyeballing. If you're able to. I went to a bar last night and I drank 8 ounces of Hennessy, 40%. How much pure alcohol did I drink? 3.2 ounces of pure alcohol. All right, so I said 0.6 ounces is 1 glass. 3.2, that's about 5 glasses. 5 glasses. I'm deep in the red. Oh boy. So after the con, if you survive the hangover, if possible, if there is a feedback session, attend it. If you're not able to, email the con and provide feedback. They really want the feedback because they want to do better. Okay. So maintain contact info with the friends you meet, share pics, positive experiences, no misinformation, please. Okay. And if you want, plan for the next con or event. Mental health. So I get sad when a con ends, okay? So when it comes to these kinds of mental health, you gotta take care of your physical health as well. So they both go together, right? So you wanna focus on something positive, talk with friends and family, try to take it easy for yourself, don't overdo it. I know that's like the main mantras. Diet and exercise, okay. If you're looking forward to another con in 2 weeks, so I'm happy about that. Some friends will do private cosplay meetups. If it's still not working, seek professional help. I've seen a counselor since 2nd grade. So, and I still see a therapist on a weekly basis. Con crud, something I got. Okay, you get sick during or after the con. Hopefully no symptoms during the con, because you tend to be more infectious when you're more symptomatic. So for cold, flu, other illnesses, generally respiratory, this is what happens when you don't take care of yourself. If you drink too much alcohol, poor hygiene, if you don't get enough sleep, if you're eating junk, okay, if you're dealing with large crowds and all that, especially if they're not masked, if your immune system's compromised, also get tested for COVID. Right now it's a recommendation. I don't think a lot of people are going for it, so lots of fluids, rest and fluids, okay? No booze, okay? Tylenol, I take it, okay? I actually went for Aleve because it's stronger, okay? It's stronger than ibuprofen, all right? But ibuprofen, Aleve, anything with NSAIDs, which stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, you have to take it with food. Cough drops, I have it in my bag. Okay, use it every 2 hours. Vitamin C and D is used for immunity. I have vitamin C tablets. So if you have motion sickness, I have a friend who gets dizzy right away in a bus, but not so much in a train. You can have meclizine or dramamine. Okay, I have Mucinex DM that has both guaifenesin and dextromethorphan. I know it's big names. So guaifenesin tends to loosen the mucus. Dextromethorphan is more of like controlling the cough. And antihistamines, I have an Allegra D. Okay, because even though I don't sneeze a lot, I deal with a sore throat and all the gunk in my throat. So again, in addition to drinking a lot of fluids, you can take antihistamines. Benadryl, I'm not a fan of it, even though it works, it'll knock you out. Okay, now, I forgot to put Sudafed there, but Sudafed is used mainly for the nose. But the Benadryl, Claritin, there's like Allegra, it's not just for the nose, for decongestant, it's also used for other allergies too. So, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but you got to read the label. Very important to read the label, especially if you take prescription medications. Safety is very important. So, you got to read the active ingredient purposes, the uses, before you even buy it. I know it sounds obvious, but you gotta, I cannot emphasize this enough. All right, you gotta check the warnings, you gotta check directions. You can also ask me, or ask a primary care physician. You know, they'll tell you also how to store the medication. If there's inactive ingredients as well, because some people may have allergies to ingredients, even if they're not active ingredients. It could be like a certain food coloring they could be allergic to. It could be dairy. Okay, and also if you have questions, comments, they tend to have a number there. There's also, you may find also a poison control hotline there. So very important to read the label. Take home messages. Thank you for staying through this. So plan early, be organized, be proactive, be positive. The main thing of coming to cons is to have fun. Okay, if you've forgotten everything that I've said. Also to be safe and healthy too. Anyone can cosplay. Making friends is important. Your health is important, as I said. Respect each other. And it's important to be nerdy because, in my opinion, I think nerds and geeks make the world go round. And don't spread COVID. And try to get, if you're eligible, I strongly encourage getting vaccinated against the COVID and flu. All right, thank you so much for coming to the panel, even though it's only a few people, but it's okay. Because I presented in an empty audience before and I recorded it as well. And I also do streaming as well. So I'm on Boggledine, I'm there on Instagram, and also I'm on Twitch. I haven't been on Twitch for I think a week or two because I'm still recovering, and I want to thank Jazzy as well. So she went over the slides and gave me comments and all that. All right, thank you so much for coming.